Hey friend, welcome back to the English Pod community. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is going to be a personal one, a heart-to-heart. Because if you're learning English, and some days it feels confusing, frustrating, or even impossible, I want you to know, you're not alone. I've been there too. I've made the mistakes. I've doubted myself. And yes, I've wanted to give up more than once. That's exactly why I'm recording this episode. It's called What I Wish I Knew When I Started Learning English. And honestly, if I could go back in time and sit down with my younger self, I'd have a long list of lessons. Things that would have saved me time. Things that would have saved me from embarrassment. Things that would have made my journey easier and way more enjoyable. Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. Learning English isn't just about grammar rules or vocabulary lists. It's about confidence. It's about habits. It's about believing you can speak, even if you're not perfect yet. So in this episode, I'm going to share the real lessons I've learned on this journey. Not from a textbook, not from a classroom, but from real-life trial and error. We'll talk about the mistakes I made, the strategies that finally worked, and the mindset shift that changed everything for me. And my goal is that by the end of this episode, you'll feel more motivated, more focused, and more confident in your English journey. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's dive into the honest, practical, and sometimes emotional truth about what I wish I knew when I started learning English. Let's get started. All right, let's rewind the clock a bit. Back to my very first year of learning English. I still remember how excited I was in the beginning. I bought grammar books, downloaded apps, watched a few tutorials. I even made a color-coded study schedule. I thought, yes, I'm serious now. I'm going to be fluent in no time. But here's the truth. Within a few months, I started feeling stuck. Really stuck. Every day I was studying grammar rules, past simple, present perfect, conditional tenses. I filled notebooks with vocabulary lists. I aced multiple choice quizzes. I knew the difference between I have gone and I had gone. But when it came to having an actual conversation, I froze. My heart would race. My brain would panic. I couldn't think of the right words. And worse, I was scared to even try. I'd sit silently in conversations, nodding and smiling, hoping no one would ask me a question. I remember once someone asked me, "What do you do for fun?" And I just said, "Yes." That moment burned into my memory, because deep down, I wasn't just struggling with English. I was struggling with confidence. And the most frustrating part? I thought I was doing everything right. I was studying hard. I was being a good student. But I still couldn't speak. That's when it hit me. Maybe the way I was learning wasn't the right way. And if you've ever felt like that, like you're putting in so much effort but not seeing real results, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. Traditional methods often focus so much on rules that they forget language is a living thing. It's meant to be spoken, to be felt, to be practiced. And in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the lessons that helped me finally break free from that stuck feeling. Because there is a better way, and I promise, it's simpler, more fun, and way more powerful than you think. Let's keep going. All right, let's rewind the clock a bit, back to my very first year of learning English. I still remember how excited I was in the beginning. I bought grammar books, downloaded apps, watched a few tutorials. I even made a color-coded study schedule. I thought, yes, I'm serious now. I'm going to be fluent in no time. But here's the truth. Within a few months, I started feeling stuck. Really stuck. Every day I was studying grammar rules, past simple, present perfect conditional tenses. I filled notebooks with vocabulary lists. I aced multiple choice quizzes. I knew the difference between I have gone and I had gone. But when it came to having an actual conversation, I froze. My heart would race. My brain would panic. I couldn't think of the right words. And worse, I was scared to even try. I'd sit silently in conversations, nodding and smiling, hoping no one would ask me a question. I remember once someone asked me, "What do you do for fun?" And I just said, "Yes." That moment burned into my memory. Because deep down, I wasn't just struggling with English, I was struggling with confidence. And the most frustrating part? I thought I was doing everything right. I was studying hard. I was being a good student. But I still couldn't speak. That's when it hit me. Maybe the way I was learning wasn't the right way. And if you've ever felt like that, like you're putting in so much effort but not seeing real results, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. Traditional methods often focus so much on rules that they forget language is a living thing. It's meant to be spoken, to be felt, to be practiced. And in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the lessons that helped me finally break free from that stuck feeling. Because there is a better way. And I promise, it's simpler, more fun, and way more powerful than you think. Let's keep going. Let's talk about something that held me back for a long time. And maybe it's holding you back too. I used to spend hours reading grammar books, watching English lessons, and making color-coded vocabulary lists. My notebook was full. My desk looked like a mini classroom, and yet, when it came time to speak, I froze. My mouth wouldn't move. My brain would race. I'd panic, or worse, stay silent. Why? Because I was learning English like a subject to pass, not like a language to use. I thought the more I studied, the more fluent I'd become. But I was wrong. You see, passive learning, reading, listening, watching, is important, yes, but it doesn't build fluency by itself. Fluency is like a muscle, and you can't build muscle just by watching someone else lift weights. You have to speak, out loud, even if you're alone, even if it's messy, even if you're scared. I wish someone had told me back then, fluency isn't memorized, it's practiced. So here's my advice to you. Don't wait until you feel ready. Speak now. Repeat phrases out loud. Talk to yourself while cooking. Whisper your thoughts in English before bed. Say it wrong. Laugh. Say it again. That's how you grow. The moment I stopped obsessing over being perfect and started focusing on being consistent, everything changed. Let's keep going. There's another mistake I made, and maybe you have too. There was this moment I'll never forget. I was at a small cafe, trying to order something simple. I wanted to say, "Can I have a cup of tea, please?" But my mind went into overdrive. Should I use can or could? What's the correct form, have or get? Wait, is it a cup of tea or some tea? I stood there frozen, overthinking a basic sentence. And in that hesitation, the moment passed. The person behind the counter smiled kindly and asked, "Tea or coffee?" I nodded quickly. "Tea, please." Just 2 words. That's all I could say. I walked away frustrated. Not because I didn't know English, but because I thought I had to speak it perfectly. That day taught me something big. Grammar is helpful, but it's not the goal. Communication is. I realized native speakers don't speak perfect grammar either. They say things like gonna, wanna, and he don't. And guess what? People still understand them. I used to think, if I make a mistake, people will laugh at me. But most people don't care about your grammar. They care about your message. Are you being polite, clear, engaged? That's what really matters. So if you're waiting until your grammar is flawless to start speaking, don't. Start now. Make mistakes. Because guess what? It's okay to be wrong. That's how you get it right. When I stopped fearing grammar and started focusing on connection, my English started flowing. And yours will too. Let's move on to the next thing I wish I knew. If I could go back and change just one thing about how I started learning English, I'd start by listening every single day. See, at the beginning, I was obsessed with grammar books and vocabulary lists. I'd study hard, write notes, underline everything. But when someone actually spoke to me, even slowly, I couldn't follow. Why? Because my brain had never heard the real sound of English. Then, one day, something shifted. I discovered podcasts. At first, I didn't understand every word, but I kept listening. And after a few weeks, I started hearing patterns. My ears got used to the rhythm, the tone, the pauses. I even caught myself repeating phrases out loud without even thinking. That's shadowing. Listening and repeating. Like an echo. I also started listening to songs in English. I'd pick one line from the lyrics and say it again and again. Like, I'm gonna make it through. I'd whisper it while brushing my teeth. I'd say it while walking to the bus stop. It felt small, but it changed everything. Listening shaped the way I thought in English. It gave me the sounds, the confidence, and the rhythm I needed. So here's my biggest tip. Let your ears lead your mouth. Before you speak well, you need to hear well. So listen more. To podcasts, shows, conversations, music. Don't try to catch every word. Just let the language flow into you. And little by little, you'll start to speak more naturally than you ever expected. When I first started learning English, I thought flashcards were the answer to everything. I'd sit down with 100 words, repeat them over and over, and try to memorize them like a machine. Table, apple, run. It felt productive at first. But here's the truth. I couldn't actually use most of those words in a real conversation. I remember one day, I proudly learned the word journey. Great word, right? But when someone asked me, "How was your journey?" I froze. Not because I didn't know the word, but because I'd never heard it used in a sentence. I had no context, no rhythm, no emotional connection to it. That's when I switched my focus. Instead of memorizing individual words, I started learning phrases, chunks of language. Expressions like, "I'm on my way." That makes sense. I got it. These weren't just words, they were tools. They helped me respond naturally in conversations. I could plug them into real-life moments, ordering food, replying to a friend, asking for help. So if you're stuck memorizing flashcards with no results, try this. Watch a short video. Listen to how people actually use words. Pick one phrase and say it 3 times out loud. Then try using it that day, even if you're just talking to yourself. Because fluency doesn't come from remembering 1,000 words. It comes from knowing 100 words really well. In real life. For the longest time, I kept asking myself, why am I not improving? I had apps, I had books, I even had a notebook full of new words, but my progress felt slow, like I was doing everything right, but not seeing results. Then one day, it hit me. I was learning in random bursts. 1 hour on Sunday, nothing for the next 3 days. 20 minutes one night, then nothing for a week. I didn't need more resources. I needed a routine. That's when I made a small promise to myself. 15 minutes a day. No excuses. and I stuck to it. Not hours, not pressure, just 15 focused minutes. And guess what? That's when I started to feel real change. Here's what my mini routine looked like. 5 minutes of listening to a podcast or short English video. 5 minutes of shadowing or repeating what I heard out loud. 5 minutes of writing one paragraph in English about my day. That's it. No magic. No grammar drills. Just simple, daily use of the language. And after a few weeks, I started thinking in English. Sentences flowed more easily. I wasn't searching for words as much. So, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to try it too. Pick a small time. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe 15. Make it your non-negotiable. Because English fluency isn't about doing everything. It's about doing something. Every single day. For a long time, I believed that to be fluent in English, I had to sound exactly like a native speaker. No accent, no hesitation, just smooth, perfect pronunciation. And guess what? That belief crushed my confidence. Every time I opened my mouth, I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to say. I was stressing over how I sounded. Did that word sound weird? Can they hear my accent? Do I sound foreign? But then something powerful happened. I met English speakers from around the world, India, France, Brazil, Germany, and they all spoke clearly, confidently, with accents, and no one cared. Why? Because their message was clear. Their voice was authentic. That's when I realized my accent wasn't the problem. My fear of being judged was. Clarity is what matters, not perfection. You can have an accent and still be fluent. You can have an accent and still inspire, connect, and lead. So stop trying to erase your identity. Your voice matters. Speak it proudly. Speak it often. Speak it your way. Let's go back to a moment that completely changed how I saw the English language. I remember sitting down to watch my first English TV show without subtitles. It was a popular series, something casual, with young people talking in fast, natural ways. I hit play, excited to test my skills after months of studying grammar rules, memorizing word lists, and doing exercises from thick textbooks. But 5 minutes in, I was completely lost. They weren't speaking like the example dialogues in my English books. They weren't saying things like, "Hello, how are you?" or "I am going to the store." Instead, I heard things like, "Want to grab something later?" "You good?" "Nah, I'm just chillin'." And I remember thinking, wait, what? Is this even English? That moment hit me hard. I realized something important. Textbook English is not real-world English. In textbooks, we learn the rules. But in real life, people break them all the time. Native speakers contract words, use informal phrases, slang, idioms, and even speak with local accents. And it's completely normal. If you're only learning English from a grammar book or a school lesson, you're missing out on how English is truly spoken. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was great at writing perfect sentences, but I couldn't understand fast conversations. I didn't know how to respond when someone said, "What's up?" or "No worries." Here's what changed everything for me. I started listening to real English, not just perfect English. I began watching short YouTube vlogs where people spoke casually. I watched interviews with actors, listened to podcasts on topics I liked, and yes, I kept watching those shows with subtitles at first. And every time I heard something new, I'd pause, repeat it, and write it down in context. Phrases like, "I'm on my way." "No biggie." "I feel you." I stopped learning individual words and started learning how people really speak. Here's something you can try today. Choose a short 2 to 3 minute scene from a show you enjoy. Maybe something on YouTube, Netflix, or Instagram. Watch it once with subtitles, then again without. Try shadowing the speaker. Repeat what they say with the same tone and rhythm. Don't focus on understanding every single word. Focus on the feeling, the tone, and the flow. Because fluency doesn't come from perfect grammar. It comes from real connection. And real connection starts with real English. Not the kind you memorize, but the kind you live. Let me tell you something surprising. Writing, yes, writing, played a huge role in helping me speak English better. I didn't realize it at first. I used to think, speaking and writing are totally different skills, right? But one night, I sat down and wrote about my day in English. Just 5 sentences. Simple things like, I woke up early. I made coffee. I felt tired but motivated. I watched an English video. I want to improve my speaking. The next day, when I had a conversation, I noticed something strange. I used the same words and phrases from my journal, without even thinking. That's when it hit me. Writing is slow thinking, and slow thinking becomes fast speaking. When I wrote every night, even for just 5 minutes, I was training my brain to form ideas in English. I was organizing my thoughts. I was seeing what I could say and what I needed to learn. And because it was private, I wasn't afraid to make mistakes. It became my personal fluency gym. So here's what I recommend to you. Tonight, before bed, open a notebook or your phone and write 5 sentences in English. That's it. Write about your day, how you feel, or what you want to improve tomorrow. Don't worry about grammar or spelling. Just write. Because when you start writing your thoughts, you'll find your voice. And once you find your voice, speaking gets so much easier. Start small. Write daily. And let your words lead the way. Let me be completely honest with you. When I first started learning English, I had zero confidence. I mean it. I was scared to even say hello out loud. I would whisper English phrases to myself in the mirror, barely loud enough to hear. My hands would sweat, my voice would shake, and every sentence felt like climbing a mountain. I remember once I was in a small group of English learners. The teacher asked us to introduce ourselves. My heart was racing. I rehearsed my sentence in my head over and over again. Hi, my name is Joof. I'm from Toof. Ooh. But when it was my turn, I froze. I mumbled something, smiled awkwardly, and sat down feeling defeated. But here's the truth I learned later. Confidence doesn't magically appear. It's something you build. One small step at a time. I didn't become confident overnight. It started with whispering, then speaking a little louder, then joining an online English group and saying 1 sentence, then 2, then having a full 5-minute conversation. And each time, I felt a little braver. Confidence grows from repetition and small wins. Every time you speak English, even if you make a mistake, you're building strength. Every time you try again after feeling embarrassed, you're building courage. So if you're thinking, I'm not confident enough to speak, I get it. But I want you to hear this. You don't need confidence to start. You build it by starting. Speak a little today, a little more tomorrow. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself speaking English with clarity, joy, and yes, pride. Just like I did. And if I can do it, so can you. Let me be completely honest with you. When I first started learning English, I had zero confidence. I mean it. I was scared to even say hello out loud. I would whisper English phrases to myself in the mirror, barely loud enough to hear. My hands would sweat, my voice would shake, and every sentence felt like climbing a mountain. I remember once I was in a small group of English learners. The teacher asked us to introduce ourselves. My heart was racing. I rehearsed my sentence in my head over and over again. Hi, my name is Zalftritzi. I'm from Hafwi. But when it was my turn, I froze. I mumbled something, smiled awkwardly, and sat down feeling defeated. But here's the truth I learned later. Confidence doesn't magically appear. It's something you build, one small step at a time. I didn't become confident overnight. It started with whispering, then speaking a little louder, then joining an online English group and saying one sentence, then two, then having a full 5-minute conversation. And each time, I felt a little braver. Confidence grows from repetition and small wins. Every time you speak English, even if you make a mistake, you're building strength. Every time you try again after feeling embarrassed, you're building courage. So if you're thinking, I'm not confident enough to speak, I get it. But I want you to hear this. You don't need confidence to start. You build it by starting. Speak a little today, a little more tomorrow. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself speaking English with clarity, joy, and, yes, pride. Just like I did. And if I can do it, so can you. There were so many nights when I sat in my room, headphones on, trying to practice English, and I felt completely alone. I'd open my mouth to speak and stop myself because there was no one to talk to, no one to correct me, no one to say, "Hey, you're doing great, keep going." And maybe you've felt that too, like you're the only one struggling, the only one making mistakes, the only one who still can't say things right, even after months or years of studying. But here's what I discovered, and what I need you to remember. You are not alone. There are millions of people around the world learning English, just like you. People who are nervous, who freeze when they speak, who forget words, who replay conversations in their heads at night thinking, I should have said this instead. And the beautiful thing is, there are communities out there filled with people who get it. Online speaking groups, language exchange partners, YouTube channels, podcasts, Instagram creators, forums, apps. The moment I joined a small English group online, just 5 people meeting once a week, everything shifted. I wasn't embarrassed anymore, because I wasn't alone. We laughed, we struggled, we improved, together. So if you've been learning in silence, reach out, find a group, start a conversation, leave a comment, say hi. Let someone know you're learning too. English is not just a language, it's a connection. And you don't have to do this by yourself. You never did. Sometimes we think we need to learn everything to sound fluent. Hundreds of words, perfect grammar, long, complicated sentences. But here's what I wish someone told me sooner. One phrase, just one, can completely change your day. I remember learning the phrase, "Let me double-check." It sounded simple. But once I started using it, something shifted. Instead of freezing when someone asked me a question, I'd take a breath and say it. Let me double-check. It gave me time to think. It sounded natural. And it made me feel confident. That's the power of learning a phrase in context. You don't need to memorize isolated words. You just need a few phrases that feel comfortable. Ones you can use again and again. So, here's your phrase for today. Let me double-check. Say it with me. Again. One more time. Now, imagine you're at work or in class, and someone asks you something you're not sure about. Instead of panicking, you say calmly, "Let me double-check." You bought yourself time. You sounded professional. And you stayed in English. Try using this phrase at least once today, even in your own head. Repeat it when you're brushing your teeth, walking down the street, or writing in your journal. One phrase, one step closer to fluency. Let's talk about something that held me back for way too long. And maybe it's holding you back too. For the longest time, I kept thinking, I should be fluent by now. I've studied for years. Why can't I speak confidently yet? I wish I sounded like that person on YouTube. And guess what? Every time I thought those things, I stopped practicing. I felt embarrassed. I told myself, what's the point? But then, one evening, while journaling in English, I wrote a simple sentence. Start where you are, not where you wish you were. And something clicked. That one sentence became a turning point for me. Because here's the truth. Fluency isn't about catching up. It's about showing up. Let's say you've forgotten everything you learned years ago. That's okay. Or maybe you can understand, but you freeze when it's time to speak. That's normal. Or you feel behind because your accent's strong or your grammar's still a little shaky. You're still allowed to keep going. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Because you're here, listening, learning, growing. What helped me move forward was giving myself permission to be a beginner again, not comparing my journey to others, not waiting until I felt ready. I started setting small, realistic goals. One voice note a day, one paragraph in my journal, one conversation, even if it was just with myself in the mirror. And slowly, I began to build momentum. I stopped focusing on where I wasn't and started appreciating how far I'd already come. So I want to tell you this today, from the heart. You don't have to be fluent to start speaking. You don't have to be perfect to practice. You don't have to wait until you're ready. Just start, right where you are. Because that's the real beginning of fluency. All right, friend, let's take a deep breath together. Because we've come a long way in this episode. We've talked about the mistakes I made, the things I wish I knew when I started learning English, and the powerful mindset shifts that changed everything for me. So let's quickly recap some of the biggest takeaways. You don't need perfect grammar to communicate. Listening is just as important as speaking. Flashcards are okay, but learning in context is much better. Writing can help your speaking more than you think. Your accent is part of your identity, not a problem to fix. And most of all, you don't have to do this alone. Now, here's your challenge. And I want you to take this seriously, because it works. Challenge 1. Grab a notebook or open your Notes app. Write down one thing you wish you knew when you first started learning English. Something simple, something honest, something real. Challenge 2. Pick your favorite tip from this episode and use it today. Whether it's journaling before bed, speaking to yourself, or shadowing one line from a podcast, do it. Just once. Challenge 3. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. Because this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. We're building something here, together. Let's grow your fluency. One word, one sentence, one story at a time. You've got this. And I'm proud of you for being here. Talk to you in the next episode.